How did the ancient Romans bathe? Spoiler, it involved a lot of steam, socializing, and questionable plumbing. Welcome to the luxurious, steamy, and very public world of Roman bathing, where hygiene, hot water, and half-naked neighbors came together in glorious, marble-clad harmony. Baths and bathing in Roman Britain. If you thought modern spas were indulgent, wait until you meet Roman Britain's bathhouses, because nothing says civilization like sweating profusely with strangers. These bathhouses were basically the Roman version of Starbucks meets a wellness retreat, everywhere, heavily frequented, and somehow essential to daily life. And if you think we're joking about ubiquity, English heritage literally babysits over 20 of these ancient bathhouses. They're not just ruins, they're the Instagram-worthy, surprisingly intact remnants of a society obsessed with being clean, social, and slightly overheated. The genius behind the steam. Bathing in Roman times wasn't just about washing off the dirt of conquest, it was an event. Think of it like gym, sauna, group therapy, and gossip hub all rolled into one. Roman bathhouses weren't private affairs either, oh no. You didn't just pop in for a quick shower before dinner. You lingered. You mingled. You discussed politics, poetry, and probably that one guy who couldn't handle the caldarium, the hot room. They even had rooms with different temperatures, like some ancient version of a very sweaty-tasting menu. Where did this steamy obsession start? In Campania, that sunny hotspot near modern-day Naples, where Roman, Etruscan, and Greek cultures all said, "Hey, let's get clean together." The idea caught on faster than a viral TikTok trend, and by the 1st century BC, bathhouses were the Roman Empire's hottest, literally, export. Romans bring the heat to Britain. By AD 43, when Rome decided Britain could use a little sophistication and a lot more central heating, they brought along their favorite cultural export, public bathing. And we're not talking exclusive, VIP access. These bathhouses welcomed everyone, from high-ranking officials to enslaved laborers. Everyone got their fair share of hot water and hypocaust heating. Archaeologists have dug up Roman baths everywhere. Cities, villas, even along Hadrian's Wall. That's right, even the soldiers stationed at the cold, windy edge of the empire got their daily steam, because nothing boosts morale like a good soak after a day of stabbing invaders. So next time you're relaxing in a spa, just remember, you're continuing a 2,000-year-old tradition of hot air, loud chatter, and communal nudity. You're basically Roman. Congratulations. Why did the Romans bathe? Hint, it wasn't just about hygiene, it was about health, status, and not being a barbarian. Imagine a world where your daily routine includes a steamy soak, political gossip, a light workout, and probably running into your senator in a towel. Welcome to the Roman bathhouse, the ancient world's answer to Netflix, therapy, and social media combined. Bathing like a Roman, if you could afford it. In theory, every Roman was supposed to bathe every day. In practice? Well, that depended on your bank account and how many chains you were wearing. If you were rich? Congratulations. Your workday ended by lunchtime, because of course it did, leaving your afternoon wide open for a 3-hour bath, complete with massages, steam rooms, and philosophical debates no one asked for. If you were poor or enslaved, yeah, good luck squeezing in a hot soak between hauling bricks and dodging your master's mood swings. For you, bathing was a luxury, more of a sometimes treat, than a daily ritual. Unless you worked in a bathhouse. Then you got to watch other people relax. Baths, not just for smelling less like a goat. The Romans weren't bathing just to feel fresh, oh no. Bathing was serious business. According to the ancient wisdom of men in togas, cleanliness wasn't just next to godliness, it was essential for health. You had a sniffle? Take a bath. Feeling melancholy? Get in the tepidarium. Chronic gout? Try the steam room and stop whining. Cicero, the Roman orator who had opinions on everything, even claimed that bathing was one of the necessities for life and health. Forget food or shelter, just hit the hot tub and you're golden. So, status? But perhaps the most Roman reason to bathe? Identity. This wasn't just about scrubbing off the grime. It was about proving you weren't a barbarian. Romans believed the real divide between the civilized and the uncivilized wasn't language, law, or architecture, it was who knew how to enjoy a proper bath. Going to the baths was how you declared your Romanness to the world. According to the Emperor Justinian's legal code, being Roman meant having a house where you could conduct business, visit the forum, worship some gods, catch a play, and of course, go bathe. Basically, if you didn't go to the bathhouse, were you even really Roman? The answer, obviously, is no. So, why did the ancient Romans bathe? Because it was healthy, it was fashionable, and most importantly, it was what all the cool, non-barbaric kids were doing. Bathe like a Roman. Because nothing screams sophistication like communal sweating and scraping oil off your skin with a metal spoon. So, you want to bathe like a Roman? Excellent choice. Prepare for an elaborate, sweaty ritual that involved more architecture, body oil, and near nudity than a modern-day wellness retreat run by philosophy majors. Step 1. Undress and pretend it's normal. Your Roman bathing experience begins where all great journeys do, awkwardly stripping down in front of strangers. Modesty? Never heard of her. You'd wear a special tunic, so your dignity could cling to something, and carry a bath kit stocked with the essentials. Oil, because soap is for amateurs. Strigils, metal scrapers that made exfoliation feel like medieval surgery. And a heavy sense of cultural superiority. Step 2. The temperature gauntlet. Next up, the thermal tour of the Roman world, one of history's most elaborate games of hot or not. Frigidarium, the icebreaker room. Literally. An unheated, chilly space to get you started. Tepidarium, the warm-up act. Think cozy hug, but with more steam and less personal space. Caldarium, the final boss of Roman heat. A hot room that doubled as a sweatbox and occasionally, a test of one's will to live. Then it's back to the frigidarium for a splash of icy water to make you feel alive or dead. It varied. If you were lucky enough to be in a big bathhouse, read Roman luxury resort, there were options. Want a dry sweat? Try the sudatorium, their version of a modern sauna, minus eucalyptus but plus awkward eye contact. Exercise? Oh, there was plenty. Wrestling, ball games, even swimming. Because nothing completes a hygiene routine like a little competitive grappling. Step 3. Pamper, pluck, philosophize. Done bathing? Not even close. You had massages to get, body hair to painfully remove, and poetry to pretend to enjoy. Romans didn't just bathe, they turned it into an entire afternoon of networking meets skincare. You might hear Cicero quoted while someone rubs your back and a snack tray floats by. It was part spa, part TED Talk, and part ancient Roman version of a country club. Enter the hypocaust, ancient Rome's secret superpower. How did they pull off all this glorious heat without a plug socket in sight? Meet the hypocaust, aka the OG central heating system. Invented around the 1st century BC, the hypocaust was a genius idea that involved raising the floor on stacks of tiles, called pili, to create a space where hot air could flow. A nearby furnace, prefurnium, pumped fiery air under the floor and up into the walls through ceramic flues, basically turning the room into a Roman toaster oven. The caldarium, hottest room, was built right next to the furnace. Think 40 degrees Celsius of glorified steam-roasted humans. The tepidarium, warm room, was a bit farther away, for those who preferred their sweating experience less extreme. Hot water? They boiled that too, directly above the furnace, of course. The result? Walls, floors, and even the bath water were lava hot. Too hot to touch. That's why bathers wore wooden sandals, not just a fashion statement, but an actual survival tool. Public baths, the Roman Empire's steamiest real estate investment. Because nothing says imperial greatness like mass sweating and shared towels. So far, you've learned how the Romans bathed, what tools they used, and how they turned bathing into a steamy networking event. But now, let's crank it up. Welcome to the public baths, Rome's version of a wellness megaplex, social media platform, and neighborhood drama hotspot, all rolled into one very sweaty building. Thermi, more than just a giant bathtub. Public bathhouses, or thermi, weren't just places to scrub yourself down. These were cathedrals of cleanliness, colossal, marble-splashed palaces of heat, humidity, and humblebrags. Some, like the infamous baths of Caracalla, were gifted by emperors as if to say, "Here, citizens, enjoy your daily soak, courtesy of my divine generosity and blatant desire for political approval." Roman Britain, when in Rome. Build a mini-Rome. When the Romans stomped into Britain with their legions and their bath kits, they didn't just conquer the land, they colonized it with urban planning. New Roman towns popped up everywhere, and surprise, surprise, they all had public baths. Because what's the point of empire if you can't drag your entire lifestyle, including your elaborate hygiene rituals, across the known world? Take Wroxeter, for example. This wasn't just a bathhouse, it was an entire city block dedicated to hot water and hotter gossip. Built by rich elites, as a civic flex, it was run by the town council and charged just enough to make you feel fancy without going broke. Bathhouse or wellness festival. The Wroxeter baths weren't just functional, they were fabulous. Mosaic floors, painted ceilings, vaulted architecture that screamed, "We invented the steam room." Hundreds, possibly thousands, of bathers passed through daily, all looking to get clean, get pampered, or just get seen. First, you'd hit the basilica, a giant hall where you could stretch, sweat, wrestle, or awkwardly pretend to be working out while scouting for friends or future dinner companions. But wait, there's more. The bathhouse was also a one-stop shop for doctors and spiritual healers, because nothing cures illness like steamy air and a blessing. Hair removal and beauty services, yes, waxing existed, and yes, it hurt. A meat market, literally. Buy prime cuts for your Roman roast. Dinner inns for those too tired, or too poor, to cook after bathing with strangers. And the cherry on top? After your social steam session, your oil scraping, your back massaged, and your meat shopping, you could grab a drink and dine with your new sweaty acquaintances. Because nothing builds friendship like shared sweat and shared sausage. Bathing on the frontier. Because even when fighting barbarians in the cold, damp wilderness, you still deserve a proper steam. Think life on the Roman frontier was all battle cries and bad weather? Think again. Even at the ragged edge of the empire, where raiders roamed and the sheep outnumbered citizens, Rome made sure its soldiers had the real essentials: weapons, walls, and, of course, bathhouses. Chester's Roman fort, military muscle meets moisturizing. Tucked beside the scenic and freezing North Tyne River, Chester's Roman fort wasn't just a base, it was a spa with swords. This frontier fortress boasted one of the best-preserved military bathhouses in Britain. Because nothing keeps morale high like hot water and a proper scrub-down after a long day of stabbing things. The bathhouse came with all the Roman luxuries a homesick soldier could ask for. A changing hall large enough for armor removal and casual gambling. Niches for statues of the gods, because what's bathing without divine judgment? And the classic suite of warm, hot, and cold rooms, ending with the traditional scream in ice plunge pool. Or, if you were feeling brave and sweaty, skip the whole water thing and head straight to the sudorium, a dry heat chamber perfect for brooding about your 25-year enlistment. Soldiers, citizenship, and soaking like a Roman. The Chester's baths weren't just for relaxing muscles, they were tools of assimilation. The soldiers stationed here were from the 2nd Asturian Cavalry, recruited from northern Spain. These weren't Roman citizens, yet. But Rome, ever the slick imperial marketer, had a deal. Serve us for 25 years, don't die, and in return, we'll grant you Roman citizenship and regular spa access. And like any good loyalty program, the baths were part of the fine print. The goal? Make soldiers act, bathe, and eventually think like Romans. Hot water equals soft power. Baths for all? Well, maybe. Here's the twist. The Chester's bathhouse wasn't even inside the fort. It sat outside the walls, nestled in the civilian settlement, the mini-economy that popped up around nearly every military outpost. Because even locals needed a place to unwind, mingle, and pretend they weren't being culturally annexed. So while soldiers soaked their battle fatigue away, local traders and families could maybe sneak in a bath too, for a small fee and a healthy dose of Romanization. Private bathing, elite edition. Meanwhile, far from the muddy frontier, back in civilized countryside luxury, the Roman elite had their own spin on bathing, private bath suites. Case in point, Lullingstone Roman Villa in Kent, a country estate so posh, it makes Chester's look like a scout camp. This villa featured a bathing wing, yes, an entire wing. 2 hot rooms, because one isn't enough. A warm room, and a cold plunge designed to remind you that wealth does not, in fact, prevent hypothermia. The purpose? Comfort, yes, but mostly status. If you weren't impressing your guests with steamy mosaics, mythological decor, and exclusive bath access, were you really elite? Lullingstone's bath suite wasn't for just anyone. It was for inner circle guests only, private politics, quiet deals, and very damp diplomacy. Finding Roman baths. Because what's archaeology if not looking for ancient steam rooms with better engineering than modern gyms? So now you know how the Romans bathed, where they bathed, and that they were oddly passionate about communal sweating. But let's get one thing clear, the bathhouse wasn't just a cultural pillar. It was also an architectural breadcrumb trail, and today, if you know what to look for, you can still find where Romans got their soak on. Spotting a Roman spa, clues from the past. Forget this. If you're out roaming Roman ruins and wondering, did they bathe here? Just look for the stone or ceramic pili. These are the little stubby columns that once held up the floor, allowing hot air to circulate underneath and warm the rooms. Because if your feet weren't toasty, were you even bathing properly? Also, keep your eyes peeled for pink cement, that's opus signinum, in case you want to impress at your next toga party, a waterproof plaster Romans used to line walls and baths. And if you're really lucky, you might stumble on the original tilework in places like the cold plunge pool at Richborough Roman Fort, where centuries later, we can still admire their commitment to both hygiene and interior design. Bathhouses of the bold and battle-ready. Want to combine bathhouse ruins with dramatic scenery and light cardio? Head to Hardknott Fort in Cumbria. Perched dramatically over the Esk Valley, it boasts the remnants of a laconicum, a circular sweat room where Roman soldiers once simmered like gladiatorial dumplings. Other military bathhouses worth your historical wanderlust include Housesteads on Hadrian's Wall, great for a scenic hike plus ancient steam. Ravenglass, tucked by the sea, because nothing says empire like beachfront property and bathhouses. And Jury Wall in Leicester, where part of a public bathhouse still looms like the world's classiest ruin. Baths for business travelers. Yes, the Romans had business hotels. Called mantios, these were official travel lodges for state employees and imperial influencers on the move. At Wall Roman site, there was even a bathhouse for officials who needed to freshen up before debating taxes or whatever Roman bureaucrats did in the evenings. Because clearly, even state-sponsored lodging needed steam rooms. Elite soaking with mosaic views. If you prefer your Roman bathing with a splash of opulence and exotic sea creatures underfoot, then Great Whitcomb Villa is your spot. This luxurious countryside estate boasts a private bath suite and a mosaic floor featuring an aquarium's worth of artistic sea life, because nothing completes a soak like being stared at by mythological dolphins. So, how did the ancient Romans bathe, and where can you still see it today? With radiant floors, pink cement, decorative tiles, and the kind of architectural flex that says, "We conquered half the world, and still had time for saunas." From forts to villas, inns to public halls, the remains of Roman baths aren't just stone and mortar, they're a 350-year-long love letter to steam, status, and social sweat.